Marcus Chen wiped the sweat from his forehead as he guided the plasma welder along the hull breach. Another asteroid had punched through the outer plating of mining station Kepler 442, and someone had to fix it before the next supply run. The station commander always volunteered Marcus for these jobs, probably because he was the only human on a crew of 47 aliens. "Human Marcus," came a voice through his comm system. The translator made every alien sound flat and emotionless. But Marcus had learned to pick up the subtle tones underneath. This was Zixtar, one of the Vorthok engineers. "Your daughter is causing disturbances in the recreation area again." Marcus sighed and sealed the last section of the breach. "What kind of disturbances?" "What?" "She is playing too enthusiastically with the Clinari younglings. They are becoming distressed." Through the station's transparent aluminum windows, Marcus could see the blue-green marble of Kepler 442b spinning slowly below. His 8-year-old daughter Emma had been born on this mining station, never seeing Earth, never meeting another human child. The closest thing to playmates she had were the alien children of the other workers. "I'll be there in 10 minutes, Marcus said, securing his tools and beginning the long walk back through the station's winding corridors. Mining station Kepler 442 wasn't built for comfort. Narrow hallways connected functional rooms, carved into a spinning asteroid. The artificial gravity came from rotation, making the outer rings feel normal, while the center remained weightless. Marcus had lived here for 12 years, ever since he'd signed a contract with Galactic Mining Consortium to work the Outer Rim territories. The recreation area buzzed with activity when Marcus arrived. A group of Clinari children huddled together near their parents, their gray skin flushed darker with distress. The Clinari were peaceful herbivores. Standing about 4 feet tall with large eyes and delicate limbs, their children looked like smaller versions of the adults, just as fragile. Emma stood in the center of the room, her dark hair messy from running around. She wore a bright red jumpsuit that made her stand out among the muted colors the aliens preferred. When she saw her father, her face lit up with excitement. "Dad, I was just playing chase with Cleven and Mortok, but they got scared when I tagged them. I didn't hurt them, I promise." Marcus knelt down to his daughter's level, noticing how the other parents watched nervously. The Clinari mother, Yilandra, approached with careful steps. "Human Marcus," she said through the translator. "Your offspring's physical contact is too forceful for our young ones. Perhaps separate play areas would be more suitable?" "Emma, come here," Marcus said gently. His daughter bounded over with the kind of energy that made the aliens uncomfortable. Human children were simply more robust than most alien species, something that caused constant friction on the station. "Did I do something wrong, Dad?" Emma asked, her voice smaller now. "No, sweetheart. You just need to remember that your friends are more delicate than you are. When you play tag, you have to be very gentle." "But it's not fun if I have to move so slowly," Emma protested. "And they never want to play the games I like. They just want to sit and look at pictures or solve math problems." Marcus felt the familiar weight of responsibility settling on his shoulders. Raising a human child among aliens presented challenges no parenting book had ever covered. Emma needed to run and jump and play physical games, but every other child on the station belonged to species that considered such activities either dangerous or inappropriate. "We'll figure something out," Marcus promised, though he wasn't sure what. As they walked back to their quarters, Emma skipped ahead, while Marcus nodded to the various alien crew members they passed. The Vorthak were tall and thin with 4 arms, perfect for the detailed technical work the mining operation required. The Halurians were shorter and stockier, their thick hide protecting them from the harsh conditions in the asteroid tunnels. A few Zephyrians floated past, using their natural magnetic abilities to navigate the metal corridors without touching the ground. All of them were polite to Marcus. All of them kept their distance. Their quarters consisted of 2 small rooms with basic furnishings. Emma had decorated her room with drawings of Earth animals she'd never seen and pictures of humans from the database files. Marcus had tried to make their space feel like home, but it was hard when home was a planet 47 light-years away. "Dad, why don't we look like everyone else?" Emma asked as they sat down for dinner. The food synthesizer had produced something that vaguely resembled spaghetti, though it tasted like nothing Marcus remembered from Earth. "Because we're human, Em. We evolved on a different world from our friends here. But why are we the only ones?" Why aren't there more humans on the station? Marcus had been dreading this question for years. Most humans live in the inner systems, closer to Earth. They don't usually come out this far for mining work. Why did you come here then? Because. Marcus paused, remembering his young self, angry at the world and looking for an escape. Because I wanted an adventure, and I'm glad I did, because I met your mother here. Emma's expression softened. She'd grown up hearing stories about her mother, a brilliant human xenobiologist who had died in an accident when Emma was 3. Dr. Sarah Chen had been studying the unique ecosystem of Kepler 442b when her research shuttle had been caught in an unexpected solar flare. I wish Mom was still here, Emma said quietly. Me too, sweetheart. But she loved this place, and she loved you very much. They finished dinner in comfortable silence, but Marcus could see the wheels turning in his daughter's head. Emma had inherited her mother's curiosity and her father's stubborn streak, a combination that often led to interesting situations. The next morning, Marcus was deep in the station's maintenance section, replacing a faulty atmospheric processor, when his comm unit crackled to life. Marcus Chen to the command center immediately, came the voice of Station Commander Thector, a Halurian whose translated voice always sounded slightly irritated. Marcus made his way through the station's central hub to the command center, where multiple species worked together to keep the mining operation running smoothly. Massive displays showed the status of drilling operations on the asteroid's surface and the progress of ore transport ships heading toward the inner systems. Commander Thector stood near the main tactical display, his thick gray hide marked with scars from years of dangerous mining work. Around him, the various department heads looked agitated in the way aliens did when they were trying not to show emotion. Human Marcus, the commander said, we have received a priority communication from the Galactic Mining Consortium. There is a situation developing that requires immediate attention. What kind of situation? The commander gestured to the display, which showed a tactical overview of the Kepler 442 system. 3 red dots blinked ominously near the outer asteroid belt, moving steadily toward their position. Pirate vessels, Commander Thector explained. Species unknown, but their ships are heavily armed. They have already attacked 2 mining operations in the neighboring system. Marcus studied the display with growing concern. How long until they reach us? Approximately 18 hours at their current speed. What about calling for help from the defense fleet? The nearest patrol is 4 days away, the commander said grimly. We are on our own. Marcus felt a cold knot forming in his stomach. Mining station Kepler 442 wasn't built for combat. They had basic shields and a few defensive turrets, but nothing that could stand up to dedicated pirate ships. Most mining operations in the Outer Rim relied on their remote locations and the vastness of space to avoid trouble. What are our options? Marcus asked. We can evacuate essential personnel to the emergency ships and abandon the station, the commander said. Or we can attempt to hide among the asteroid field and hope they do not detect us. Neither option sounded promising. The emergency ships weren't designed for long journeys, and hiding a spinning station among asteroids would be nearly impossible against determined attackers. Sir, interrupted Vex Aaron, the Vorthak security chief, the incoming vessels just transmitted a message. The main display switched to show 3 sleek ships with unusual designs Marcus didn't recognize. They were larger than typical mining vessels and bristled with weapon arrays. A harsh voice filled the command center, speaking in a language the translators couldn't process immediately. After a few seconds, the translation came through. Attention mining facility. You will surrender all valuable resources and personnel for processing. Resistance will result in destruction. You have 6 hours to comply. The command center fell silent except for the soft humming of the station's systems. Marcus looked around at the faces of his colleagues and friends, seeing fear and resignation in their expressions. There has to be something we can do, Marcus said. What about the defense turrets? Can we modify them? The turrets are designed for asteroid deflection, Vex Aaron replied. They would be ineffective against military-grade shields. What about the mining charges? Those are essentially explosives. Commander Thector's scarred face showed surprise. You are suggesting we attempt to fight them? I'm suggesting we don't just give up, Marcus said firmly. This station is our home. These are our families. We can't just let pirates walk in and take everything. The other department heads exchanged glances that Marcus had learned to interpret as doubt mixed with concern. To most galactic species, the idea of fighting when outmatched seemed irrational. Their cultures emphasized survival through cooperation and strategic retreat when necessary. Human Marcus, the commander said carefully. Your species has different instincts regarding conflict. Perhaps it would be wise to consider evacuation. Before Marcus could respond, another voice cut through the tension. Dad. Emma burst into the command center, having somehow slipped past the security checkpoint. Her face was flushed with excitement and fear. Emma, you're not supposed to be here, Marcus said, moving quickly to his daughter's side. I heard people talking about bad ships coming, she said, looking up at him with wide eyes. Are they going to hurt us? Marcus knelt down and pulled Emma into a hug, acutely aware that every alien in the room was watching them. In that moment, the weight of being the station's only human family hit him with full force. Everyone else had escape plans that led back to their homeworlds and extended families. Marcus and Emma had nowhere else to go. We're going to figure something out, Em, he said quietly. Can you make them go away? Emma asked, with the absolute faith that children have in their parents. Marcus looked into his daughter's trusting eyes and felt something shift inside him. Sarah had died protecting the things she cared about. She wouldn't have run from a fight when Emma's future was at stake. Yes, Marcus said firmly, standing up and facing the command center. I can make them go away. All D's. I can make them go away. The alien stared at him with expressions he couldn't fully read through the translators. But he sensed a mixture of confusion and concern. Human Marcus, Commander Thector said slowly. What exactly are you proposing? I'm proposing we stop acting like victims and start acting like people who have something worth defending, Marcus replied. This is our station. Our home. Our families. We know every corridor. Every system. Every weakness. Those pirates are coming into our territory, but their ships are clearly superior to our defenses, Vexarin pointed out. Then we don't fight their ships, Marcus said, his mind racing through possibilities. We make them come to us. Emma tugged on his sleeve. Dad? What are you going to do? Mine is... Marcus looked down at his daughter, then back at the worried faces of his colleagues. For 8 years, he'd been the token human on an alien mining station, fitting in as best he could and trying not to cause trouble. But his daughter deserved better than a father who ran away when things got difficult. I'm going to be human, Marcus said simply. The next few hours passed in a blur of activity. Marcus worked with the engineering teams to modify the mining charges, turning them into improvised explosive devices that could be placed strategically throughout the station. The Vorthak engineers were brilliant at technical solutions, and once they understood what Marcus was planning, they threw themselves into the work with surprising enthusiasm. The Halurians, despite their preference for avoiding conflict, proved invaluable in identifying the station's structural weak points where explosives could be placed for maximum effect. The Zephyrians used their magnetic abilities to position the charges in places that would be impossible for other species to reach. Even the peaceful Clinari contributed, using their analytical minds to calculate blast patterns and timing sequences. Marcus realized that while none of these species had human-style aggressive instincts, they all shared something more important. They were willing to work together to protect their home. As the pirate ships drew closer, Marcus found himself in the strangest position of his life. The aliens who had always kept him at arm's length were now looking to him for leadership in a situation that required exactly the kind of reckless determination that made humans dangerous. The charges are in position, Vexarin reported, but I still do not understand how this will help against armed vessels. Because they're not going to stay in their ships, Marcus explained. Pirates want cargo and prisoners. They'll board the station to secure it before they start loading their ships. That's when we spring the trap. Commander Thector studied the tactical displays with new interest. You believe they will bring their forces inside the station where their superior firepower becomes irrelevant? Exactly. In here, it's not about who has the bigger guns. It's about who knows the territory and who's willing to do whatever it takes to win. Emma had been moved to the secure section of the station with the other children and non-essential personnel. But Marcus could feel her presence like a constant reminder of what he was fighting for. Every choice he made in the coming hours would determine what kind of world his daughter grew up in. The pirate ships arrived exactly on schedule, taking positions around the station like predators surrounding wounded prey. Marcus watched from the command center as their scans probed the station's defenses and found them wanting. "Incoming transmission," Vexaren announced. The main display showed the interior of one of the pirate ships, revealing 3 figures that Marcus didn't recognize from any species database. They were roughly humanoid but larger, with thick gray skin and faces that seemed designed for intimidation. Their leader spoke in a harsh, guttural language that the translators struggled to process. "Mining facility. Your compliance time has expired. Prepare to receive boarding parties. Any resistance will be met with immediate termination." The transmission cut off, and Marcus watched as the pirate ships deployed smaller craft that began moving toward the station's docking bays. "All personnel to defensive positions," Commander Thector announced over the station-wide communication system. Marcus took a deep breath and activated his personal comm unit. "Emma? Can you hear me?" "Yes, Dad. Are the bad people coming now?" "Yes, sweetheart. But remember what we talked about. Stay with Mrs. Yelandra and do exactly what she tells you, okay?" "Okay, Dad. Be careful." "I will. I love you, Em." "I love you too, Dad." Marcus closed the channel and turned to face the aliens who had become his family over the years. They looked back at him with expressions he was finally beginning to understand. Fear, yes, but also determination and trust. "All right, everyone," Marcus said, checking his equipment one last time. "Let's show these pirates what happens when they mess with our home." The first boarding craft docked with a resonating clang that echoed through the station's hull. Marcus positioned himself near the main corridor junction where the invaders would have to pass, while the alien crew members took positions at strategic points throughout the station. Heavy footsteps echoed through the docking bay, followed by the distinctive sound of energy weapons charging. Marcus keyed his comm unit to the station-wide frequency. "Here they come," he whispered. The corridor lights dimmed as the first group of pirates emerged from the docking bay, their weapons sweeping back and forth as they advanced. Marcus had seen many alien species over the years, but these creatures were clearly built for violence. They moved with the confidence of predators who had never encountered serious resistance. That was about to change. Marcus waited until the lead group reached the junction point, then triggered the first set of charges. The explosion shook the entire station, sealing off the main corridor and trapping the pirates in a section where the modified mining equipment could be used against them. "Phase 1 complete," Marcus reported, hearing similar explosions echoing from other parts of the station, where his colleagues were implementing their parts of the plan. But the pirates adapted quickly. Marcus watched through the security feeds as they began cutting through the sealed blast doors with advanced plasma torches, their movements becoming more cautious but no less determined. "They're tougher than I expected." Vexaren's voice crackled over the comm. "Then we get tougher too," Marcus replied, moving to his next position. The battle for mining station Kepler 442 had begun, and Marcus Chen was about to show the galaxy exactly what humans were capable of when their families were threatened. The plasma torch cut through the blast door like a hot knife through butter, sending sparks cascading down the corridor. Marcus crouched behind a maintenance junction, watching the security feed as the pirate boarding party prepared to breach his first defensive line. He counted 12 hostiles in this group alone, all carrying military-grade weapons and wearing armor that would shrug off the station's basic defensive systems. "Contact in 30 seconds, he whispered into his comm unit. Throughout the station, his alien colleagues waited at their assigned positions. The plan relied on coordination and timing that would have been impossible without the diverse skills of the crew. The Vorthak engineers had rigged environmental controls to create confusion. The Halurians had prepared structural surprises using their intimate knowledge of mining operations. The Zephyrians could move through the station's magnetic infrastructure faster than anyone else, carrying messages and supplies where needed. But when the fighting started, it would come down to Marcus and a handful of volunteers who were willing to get close enough to the pirates to make a difference. The blast door fell inward with a tremendous crash. The lead pirate, A massive creature with 4 arms and skin like armored plating stepped through the breach. His species was unknown to Marcus, but their body language spoke a universal language of violence and conquest. Marcus waited until half the boarding party had moved past his position, then triggered the second phase of his trap. The corridor's artificial gravity reversed, sending the pirates tumbling toward the ceiling in confusion. Emergency foam dispensers activated, filling the space with rapidly expanding polymer that would harden within seconds. 3 of the pirates managed to fire their weapons before becoming trapped, their energy blasts scorching the walls harmlessly. Marcus emerged from cover and used a modified mining laser to disable their weapons while they struggled against the hardening foam. Section C7 secured, he reported, moving to intercept Group 2. The response came from Vex Aaron, whose voice carried a note of excitement that the translator couldn't quite suppress. Section B3 also secured. These creatures are not prepared for our environmental advantages. Marcus allowed himself a moment of satisfaction as he moved through the maintenance tunnels toward his next position. The pirates had expected to face either cowering civilians or standard security measures. They hadn't planned for defenders who knew every inch of their territory and were willing to use unconventional tactics, but his satisfaction was short-lived. The station's hull rang with the sound of more docking clamps engaging. The pirates were sending additional forces, and they would learn from the mistakes of the first wave. "Dad, are you okay?" Emma's voice came through his personal comm channel, barely audible over the sounds of distant explosions. "I'm fine, sweetheart. Stay where you are and keep quiet. The other kids are scared. Cleven is crying because his parents are fighting the bad people too." Marcus felt a stab of guilt. He had convinced his alien colleagues to fight, putting them all at risk for a plan that might not work. But when he thought about Emma and the other children growing up in a galaxy where pirates could simply take whatever they wanted, his resolve hardened. "Tell Cleven that his parents are heroes," Marcus said. "They're protecting everyone's future." "I will, Dad. Be safe." Marcus reached his next position just as the second wave of pirates advanced down the main corridor. These ones moved more carefully, using portable shields and scanning for traps. Their leader barked orders in their harsh language, and Marcus could see they had adapted their tactics based on the first group's failure. Time for something they couldn't adapt to. Marcus activated his comm unit and sent a coded signal to the Zephyrians positioned throughout the station's magnetic infrastructure. Within seconds, every piece of metal equipment in the corridor began behaving strangely. Weapons twisted in the pirates' hands as magnetic fields fluctuated wildly. Their armor plating pulled them off balance as the Zephyrians manipulated the station's natural magnetic properties. While the pirates struggled with their suddenly uncontrollable equipment, Marcus triggered a series of mining charges placed in the ventilation system above them. The explosion wasn't meant to kill, but to bring down a section of ceiling and create chaos. In the confusion of falling debris and magnetic interference, Marcus and a team of Halurian volunteers emerged from concealed positions. The Halurians moved like living tanks, their thick hides protecting them from the pirates' desperate shots while they used mining tools as weapons. Korthek, a veteran miner who had worked the outer asteroids for 20 years, grabbed one of the pirates with his massive hands and threw the creature against the wall with bone-crushing force. "This is our home," he growled through the translator, advancing on the next pirate. The fight was brutal but brief. The pirates were individually stronger and better armed, but they were fighting, confused and off balance, in an environment their enemies controlled completely. When the smoke cleared, the second boarding party had been neutralized, with only minor injuries to the defenders. "This is actually working," Marcus said into his comm, hardly believing it himself. "Do not become overconfident, Commander," Thector's voice crackled in response. "The pirate vessels are repositioning. They appear to be preparing for a more direct approach." Marcus checked the tactical display on his portable unit and saw what the commander meant. The 3 pirate ships had moved closer to the station and were charging their main weapons. If they couldn't take the station intact, they might decide to blast their way in regardless of the damage. "All defensive teams, fall back to the inner ring," Marcus ordered. "They're going to try to breach the hull directly." As he made his way toward the station's central hub, Marcus passed through the civilian evacuation area where the families had gathered. The children of various species huddled together while their parents tried to comfort them. Emma sat with the young Clinari, her small human hands holding theirs in a gesture of support that transcended species barriers. "Dad!" Emma jumped up and ran to him, throwing her arms around his waist. "Are the bad people gone?" "Some of them," Marcus said, kneeling to hug his daughter properly. "But there might be more." Emma pulled back and looked at him with an expression far too serious for an 8-year-old. "Are you going to keep fighting them?" Marcus glanced around at the alien families watching their conversation. Despite the translator barriers, he could sense their fear and their desperate hope that somehow the human would find a way to save them all. "Yes," Marcus said simply, "because they picked the wrong place to attack." A massive explosion shook the station, sending everyone stumbling. Emergency lights flashed as hull breach alarms blared throughout the facility. Marcus kissed Emma's forehead and handed her back to Yelandra. "Keep them safe," he told the Clinari mother, who nodded with determined understanding. Marcus ran toward the breach site, where his comm unit was already crackling with damage reports. The pirates had used focused plasma bombardment to punch a hole directly through the outer hull into one of the main corridor sections. It was a crude but effective tactic that bypassed all their carefully prepared defenses. "They're coming through the breach," Vexarin reported. "Multiple contacts. Heavily armed." Marcus reached the breach site to find his worst fears confirmed. The pirates had learned from their previous failures and were now sending in their elite forces. These weren't the standard boarding troops from before, but specialized assault soldiers wearing full combat armor and carrying weapons that could punch through the station's bulkheads. Worse, their leader was something Marcus had never seen before. Nearly 8 feet tall with natural armor plating and 4 arms, each holding a different weapon. Its eyes glowed with an intelligence that spoke of military training and professional competence. "Human," the creature spoke, its voice carrying clearly without translation. "You have caused considerable inconvenience. Surrender now, and your death will be swift." Marcus stepped out of cover, his mining laser in hand, acutely aware that it was completely inadequate against the creature's armor. Around him, the few remaining volunteers took defensive positions, but they all knew this fight would be different from the earlier ones. "This is our home," Marcus said, repeating Korthek's words. "You're not welcome here." The pirate leader made a sound that might have been laughter. "Your species is unknown to us, but your defiance is noted. You will provide useful information about human capabilities before you die." The elite assault team spread out with professional efficiency, cutting off escape routes and establishing fields of fire. Marcus realized that his unconventional tactics wouldn't work against opponents who had adapted to fighting in confined spaces. But as the pirates advanced, something unexpected happened. The station's environmental systems began acting up again, but this time, it wasn't part of any plan Marcus had made. Lights flickered in patterns that shouldn't be possible. Gravity fluctuated in localized areas. The air itself seemed to shimmer with some kind of energy. "What's happening to your station?" the pirate leader demanded, raising his weapons as his troops looked around nervously. Marcus was wondering the same thing when his comm unit crackled to life with a transmission from the command center. "Human Marcus," came Commander Thektor's excited voice. "You need to return here immediately. We are receiving a priority transmission from..." "Well, you need to see this yourself." "I'm a little busy right now," Marcus replied, watching as the pirate assault team continued their advance despite the strange environmental effects. "Marcus," the commander's voice carried an urgency that cut through all protocol. "The transmission is from Earth." The words hit Marcus like a physical blow. Earth was 47 light-years away. Even with the fastest courier ships, any message would take months to reach them. The only way for real-time communication across such distances would be quantum entanglement communication, Marcus breathed. "But that's military technology." The pirate leader had heard enough. "Advance and secure the human for interrogation," he ordered his troops. But before they could move, the station shook again. This time from something docking with the command section, rather than breaching the hull. New alarms began sounding, but these were different from the breach warnings. These were arrival notifications. Marcus's comm unit exploded with chatter from throughout the station. Multiple contacts were incoming. But they weren't pirates. The energy signatures were completely different, and they were broadcasting identification codes that made Marcus's heart race. All pirate forces, came a new voice over the station-wide communication system, speaking in clear, unaccented Standard Galactic. This is Captain Sarah Mitchell, of the Earth Defense Force ship Defiance. You have attacked a human civilian facility and endangered human civilians. You have 30 seconds to surrender before we demonstrate why that was a mistake. Marcus stared at his comm unit in shock. Earth Defense Force ships were theoretical constructs as far as he knew. Humanity was supposed to be a minor species that barely qualified for galactic community membership. They didn't have the technology for military vessels that could cross interstellar distances quickly enough to respond to distress calls. The pirate leader seemed equally confused. But his response was predictably violent. "Kill the human and secure the facility," he snarled. Unknown vessels are irrelevant, but as his troops raised their weapons, the station's hull rang with the distinctive sound of military-grade docking clamps engaging at multiple points. Whatever ships had arrived were large enough to dock with the station directly, and they were doing so with the kind of precision that spoke of advanced technology. "This is your final warning," Captain Mitchell's voice continued. "Surrender immediately or face the consequences." The pirate leader's response was to open fire directly at Marcus, who dove for cover as energy bolts scorched the air where he'd been standing. But before the assault team could follow up their attack, the corridor filled with a new sound. The distinctive whine of military-grade transporters. Figures materialized throughout the space in flashes of blue light, wearing armor that made the pirates' equipment look primitive by comparison. They moved with the coordinated precision of professional soldiers, and their weapons carried the distinctive energy signature that Marcus recognized from military documentaries. But what shocked Marcus most was that they were human. Not just human, but clearly military personnel with training and equipment that surpassed anything he'd seen from the major galactic powers. Their armor incorporated technologies he couldn't identify, and their weapons seemed to be several generations ahead of standard galactic military equipment. "Hostile forces, stand down immediately," the lead soldier commanded, her voice carrying absolute authority even through her helmet's external speakers. The pirate leader's four eyes widened in what Marcus interpreted as genuine surprise. "Impossible. Humans are a minor species with no significant military capabilities. That's what we wanted you to think," the soldier replied. "Final warning. The pirate leader made the last mistake of his career by raising his weapons toward the new arrivals." The human soldiers moved with inhuman speed and precision, their weapons discharging with controlled bursts that neutralized the entire assault team in seconds. Marcus watched in stunned amazement as the elite pirates who had seemed unstoppable moments before were reduced to unconscious forms on the deck. The human soldiers secured the area with professional efficiency, then turned their attention to Marcus and his alien colleagues. "Sir, are you Marcus Chen, civilian contractor?" the lead soldier asked, retracting her helmet to reveal a woman in her 30s, with short brown hair and calm, intelligent eyes. "Yes," Marcus managed to say. "But how did you get here so fast? And who are you?" "Lieutenant Colonel Sarah Mitchell, Earth Defense Force Rapid Response Division," she replied. "We've been monitoring this sector for some time, Mr. Chen. Your distress signal was received, and we responded according to protocol." "What protocol? Earth doesn't have rapid response fleets." Colonel Mitchell smiled, and Marcus saw something in her expression that reminded him of Emma when she had figured out a particularly clever solution to a problem. "Mr. Chen, there's a lot about Earth's capabilities that isn't common knowledge in the galactic community. Your actions here have triggered certain protocols that require us to make our presence known." Throughout the station, Marcus could hear similar conversations taking place as Earth Defense Force personnel secured the remaining pirate forces. The speed and efficiency of their operations suggested a level of military sophistication that didn't match anything he knew about human space capabilities. "I don't understand," Marcus said. "How is any of this possible?" Before Colonel Mitchell could answer, Marcus's comm unit buzzed with an incoming transmission. Emma's excited voice filled the corridor. "Dad, there are more humans here. Real humans in soldier clothes, and they want to talk to you." Marcus looked at Colonel Mitchell, who nodded toward the command center. I think it's time you learned some things about your home planet that weren't in the civilian briefings, Mr. Chen. And I believe there are some people from Earth who want to speak with you directly. As they walked toward the command center, Marcus tried to process what had just happened. In the span of a few hours, he had gone from being a lonely human maintenance worker to leading a desperate defense of his home, to being rescued by a military force he didn't know existed. But more importantly, Emma was safe, and the station was secure. Whatever came next, his daughter would grow up in a galaxy where humans were clearly more significant than anyone had realized. "Colonel," Marcus said as they reached the command center, "am I going to like what I'm about to learn?" Colonel Mitchell paused at the door and gave him that same knowing smile. "Mr. Chen, you just single-handedly organized a multi-species defense against professional pirates, using improvised tactics and civilian equipment. I think you're going to fit right in with what Earth really has planned for this galaxy." The command center doors opened, revealing not just his alien colleagues, but several more human officers gathered around displays, showing tactical information that was far more detailed than anything the mining station's sensors should have been able to provide. And standing near the main communications array, speaking directly with someone on Earth in real time, through what had to be military-grade quantum entanglement technology, was a man wearing Admiral's insignia, who looked up at Marcus with an expression of professional interest and unmistakable pride. "Mr. Chen," the Admiral said, "I'm Admiral James Harrison, Earth Defense Force Strategic Command. I understand you've had an interesting day." Marcus looked around the command center at the mixture of alien colleagues and human military personnel, all of whom were looking at him with expressions ranging from curiosity to respect. Through the main viewport, he could see sleek ships with Earth markings that definitely hadn't been there when the pirates arrived. "Sir," Marcus said, "I think I'm going to need a very long explanation." Admiral Harrison smiled. "Son, you just proved something we've been hoping to demonstrate for years. Sometimes the best defense isn't advanced technology or superior firepower. Sometimes it's just one human who refuses to back down when his family is threatened." Marcus thought about Emma, safe now with the other children, and about the alien colleagues who had trusted him enough to fight for their shared home. Whatever he was about to learn about Earth's place in the galaxy, he knew that his life on mining station Kepler 442 would never be the same. But looking around at the faces of friends and allies from multiple worlds, Marcus realized that might not be such a bad thing. Admiral Harrison gestured toward the main display, which now showed a detailed tactical overview of the Kepler 442 system. Instead of the simple mining operation maps Marcus was used to seeing, this display revealed layers of information that suggested Earth had been monitoring this region far more closely than anyone realized. "Mr. Chen, what I'm about to tell you is classified at the highest levels of galactic security," Admiral Harrison began. "But your actions today have earned you the right to know the truth about humanity's role in this galaxy." Marcus looked around the command center, taking in the faces of his alien colleagues mixed with Earth military personnel. Commander Thector stood near his usual position, but his expression suggested he was hearing this information for the first time as well. "Sir, with respect, I just want to make sure my daughter is safe, and that the people who tried to hurt her face consequences for their actions." "And that," the Admiral said with a satisfied nod. "Of course, sir, but I still don't understand how any of this is possible." Admiral Harrison activated a holographic projector that filled the center of the room with a three-dimensional map of local space. Marcus recognized the local star systems, but the display showed details he'd never seen before: hidden installations, patrol routes, and what looked like an entire network of defensive positions scattered throughout the Outer Rim territories. 40 years ago, when humanity first made contact with the galactic community, we were classified as a minor species with limited technological capabilities, the Admiral explained. That classification was deliberately cultivated and carefully maintained. "You mean Earth has been hiding its real capabilities?" "Not hiding, Marcus. Developing." While the major galactic powers focused on expansion and resource extraction, humanity focused on what we do best: adaptation, innovation, and preparation for the unexpected. Colonel Mitchell stepped forward, adding her own perspective to the briefing. "Every human working in the Outer Rim territories has been part of a larger strategic network, whether they knew it or not. Mining operations, research stations, trade outposts, they all serve dual purposes as observation and early warning systems. Marcus felt a strange mixture of pride and betrayal. So I've been some kind of unwitting spy all these years? You've been a guardian, Admiral Harrison corrected. Every report you filed, every interaction you had with alien species, every problem you solved, contributed to our understanding of how the galaxy really works. And today, when pirates threatened your home and your family, you proved exactly why we put humans in these positions. The main display shifted to show the recent battle, with tactical annotations that revealed details Marcus hadn't noticed during the fighting. His improvised defensive strategies were analyzed and evaluated with the kind of thoroughness that suggested military intelligence had been studying human conflict resolution for years. Your species has a unique approach to problem-solving, observed Vexarin, the Vorthak security chief. His translated voice carried a note of genuine respect. When faced with superior opposition, most species either surrender or attempt to flee. Humans seem to automatically look for ways to turn disadvantages into advantages. It's called being stubborn, Marcus said with a weak smile. We prefer tactically innovative, Colonel Mitchell replied. And it's exactly that kind of thinking that makes humans valuable in situations like this. Emma's voice suddenly crackled over the comm system from the civilian area. Dad, the nice soldier lady says there are more ships coming, and they want to talk to the bad people who tried to hurt us. Admiral Harrison nodded to one of his staff officers, who activated another display showing the outer system. 3 massive vessels were approaching, their designs unlike anything Marcus had seen before. They moved with the ponderous grace of capital ships, but their energy signatures suggested capabilities far beyond typical galactic military standards. The Galactic Peacekeeping Council has dispatched a diplomatic mission to investigate the pirate attack, the Admiral explained. This is where things get interesting. How so? Because, Marcus, you just became the center of a major galactic incident. The pirates who attacked your station weren't random criminals. They belong to the Korthek hegemony, a militaristic faction that has been testing the Outer Rim defenses for months. Commander Thector stepped forward, his scarred Halurian features showing concern. Admiral Harrison, the Korthek hegemony is a major power. If they were behind these attacks, then they've just discovered that humanity isn't as helpless as they assumed, Admiral Harrison finished. And now they're going to have to explain to the Galactic Council why they attacked a civilian facility that was under Earth's protection. Marcus felt the weight of implications settling around him like a heavy blanket. Under Earth's protection? Sir, this is a galactic mining consortium operation, owned and operated under license from Earth Colonial Development Authority, Colonel Mitchell said, producing a data tablet with official documentation. Every human working in the Outer Rim operates under Earth's direct protection, even if they don't know it. Why keep it secret? Admiral Harrison walked to the main viewport, gazing out at the stars beyond the station. Because, Marcus, the galaxy has seen what happens when one species becomes too powerful too quickly. The Korthek hegemony is an example of what happens when military might outpaces wisdom. We decided to take a different approach, which is integration, cooperation. Building relationships with species who share our values, rather than conquering those who don't. The Admiral turned back to face the room. Every human in the Outer Rim has been building bridges between Earth and the galactic community, one friendship at a time. Marcus thought about his years on the station, working alongside alien colleagues, learning their cultures, helping raise their children alongside Emma. So, when I helped design new mining techniques with the Vorthak engineers, or when Emma played with the Clinari children, you were creating the foundation for Earth's real expansion into galactic society, Admiral Harrison confirmed. Not through force or economic domination, but through genuine partnerships. The communication array chimed with an incoming transmission. Colonel Mitchell activated the display to show the interior of one of the approaching diplomatic vessels. The figure on screen was clearly Galactic Council authority, wearing the distinctive robes of a senior peacekeeping official. Mining Station Kepler 442, this is Council Arbitrator Veltar, aboard the diplomatic vessel Harmony's Voice. We are here to investigate reports of piracy and military action in this system. Admiral Harrison stepped forward. Arbitrator Veltar, this is Admiral Harrison, representing Earth interests in this matter. We are prepared to cooperate fully with your investigation. The alien official's large eyes showed surprise. Admiral? Earth maintains military forces in the Outer Rim territories? Earth maintains defensive capabilities wherever human civilians are present, Arbitrator. As is our right, under galactic law. Marcus watched the exchange with growing understanding. This wasn't just about the pirate attack anymore. This was about Earth announcing its real presence in galactic affairs, using his station as the catalyst for a much larger revelation. Arbitrator, Admiral Harrison continued, we have evidence that the attacking force belonged to the Korthek hegemony. They threatened civilian populations, including children from multiple species. I believe this requires immediate council attention. The arbitrator's expression grew grave. Admiral, if you have evidence of Korthek involvement in piracy operations, that is indeed a matter for the full council. We request permission to board your facility for a complete investigation. Permission granted. We also request that human civilians involved in the defense be granted full diplomatic immunity during your investigation. Of course, we will arrive within the hour. The transmission ended, leaving the command center in contemplative silence. Marcus realized that everything was about to change. Not just for him and Emma, but for every human in the Outer Rim territories. Marcus, Admiral Harrison said quietly, I need to ask something difficult of you. What do you need, sir? The council investigation will require detailed testimony about the attack and the defense. Your actions today will be studied and analyzed by every major power in the galaxy. You're about to become famous, and that means Emma will grow up in the spotlight. Marcus thought about his daughter, safely surrounded by friends from multiple worlds, protected now by the knowledge that Earth was far more capable than anyone had realized. Sir, if my testimony helps prevent other families from going through what we experience today, I'll tell them everything they want to know, even if it means you can never go back to being just another maintenance worker on a mining station. Marcus looked around the command center at his alien colleagues, who had fought beside him to protect their shared home. He thought about the Earth Defense Force personnel who had risked everything to protect civilians they'd never met. Most of all, he thought about Emma and the galaxy she would inherit. Admiral, I was never just a maintenance worker. I was a father, a friend, and apparently a guardian, whether I knew it or not. If that's changing, then I guess I'm ready to learn what comes next. Commander Thector approached, extending his massive Halurian hand in what Marcus had learned was a gesture of respect. Human Marcus, whatever changes come, you will always have allies among those who fought with you today. Similar expressions of support came from Vexaran, the Vorthok engineers, and even Yelandra speaking for the Clinari families. Marcus realized that the bonds formed during the crisis had created something unprecedented. A truly integrated community, where species differences mattered less than shared values. Dad, Emma's voice echoed through the command center as she burst through the doors, followed by several alien children and a bemused Earth Defense Force lieutenant who had apparently been assigned as their escort. Sweetheart, you're supposed to stay in the safe area, Marcus said, kneeling to hug his daughter. But the soldier lady said the bad people are all caught, and the important people from the big council are coming to visit. Emma looked around the command center with wide eyes. Dad, are we famous now? Marcus glanced up at Admiral Harrison, who smiled and nodded encouragingly. Some very important people want to talk to us about what happened today. They want to make sure that bad people like those pirates don't hurt other families. Are you going to tell them how you made the bad people go away? I'm going to tell them how everyone worked together to protect our home, Marcus corrected. The soldiers, the engineers, the miners, even the kids who stayed brave and safe when things got scary. Emma nodded seriously, then looked up at Admiral Harrison with the direct curiosity that had always made aliens uncomfortable and humans proud. Are you like a space captain? She asked. Something like that, Admiral Harrison replied. And your dad is like a space hero. I knew it, Emma exclaimed, looking back at Marcus with absolute conviction. Dads always make the bad people stop. As the Earth Defense Force personnel prepared for the arriving diplomatic mission, Marcus found himself in quiet conversation with his alien colleagues. The crisis had revealed hidden strengths and capabilities in all of them. But it had also shown that the bonds they'd formed over years of working together were stronger than species differences. "What happens to the station now?" Marcus asked Commander Thector. "The Galactic Mining Consortium will likely increase security measures," the commander replied. "But more importantly, I believe we have proven that multi-species cooperation creates capabilities that exceed the sum of individual parts." "You mean we work better together than apart?" "I mean, human Marcus, that your daughter will grow up in a galaxy where species work together because they choose to, not because they are forced to. That is a worthy legacy from today's actions." The first diplomatic shuttle docked with a gentle vibration that echoed through the station. Admiral Harrison gathered his staff while the alien crew members prepared to give their testimonies about the defense of their home. "Marcus," Admiral Harrison said as they prepared to meet the diplomatic mission, "whatever happens in the coming days, remember that you didn't just save your station today. You proved that humanity's approach to galactic citizenship works. Every species that fought with you will remember that humans can be trusted to stand beside their friends when things get difficult. And every species that hears about today will know that attacking human civilians brings consequences," Colonel Mitchell added. As they walked toward the docking bay to greet the diplomatic mission, Emma slipped her hand into Marcus's and looked up at him with the complete trust that only children can manage. "Dad, are things going to be different now?" Marcus looked ahead at the diplomatic shuttle. Behind at the alien friends who had become family, and down at his daughter who would grow up in a galaxy where humanity was finally ready to take its place among the stars. "Yes, sweetheart, things are going to be different. But different can be good. Will we still live here with our friends?" "I think so, Em. But now everyone will know that when someone threatens our friends, humans don't back down." Emma squeezed his hand and smiled with 8-year-old satisfaction. "I'm glad you made the bad people stop, Dad." As they reached the docking bay where representatives from multiple galactic powers waited to learn about humanity's hidden capabilities, Marcus realized that Emma had been right all along. Sometimes the most important job in the galaxy was just being someone willing to stand up and say no when bad people tried to hurt the ones you loved. The diplomatic mission would investigate and document everything that had happened. The Korthek hegemony would face consequences for attacking civilians. Earth would reveal its true capabilities to the galactic community. But at its heart, the story would always be simple. When pirates threatened his daughter and his friends, Marcus Chen had refused to back down. And that refusal had changed everything. The docking bay doors opened to reveal the diplomatic party, led by arbitrator Veltar, whose expression showed the kind of careful respect that came from dealing with species whose capabilities had been seriously underestimated. "Admiral Harrison," the arbitrator said formally, "the Galactic Council is eager to hear about these recent events. We understand there may be new information about human defensive capabilities." Admiral Harrison stepped forward with the calm confidence of someone who had been preparing for this moment for years. "Arbitrator, I think you'll find that Earth has many capabilities that haven't been fully appreciated by the galactic community. Today's events represent just the beginning of a new era in human-galactic relations." Marcus stood with Emma and their alien friends, watching as humanity officially stepped onto the galactic stage not as conquerors or supplicants, but as equals ready to work with anyone who shared their values and stand against anyone who threatened their friends. It was, he thought, exactly the kind of galaxy Emma deserved to inherit.